What if I told you that a girl could be kidnapped as a child, raised by her abductor, forced to live a life that was never hers, and then, just when she tried to escape, she died under mysterious circumstances? And what if the man behind it all was someone she trusted the most? This is not a movie. This is the real story of Sharon Marshall. A story so disturbing, it took decades to uncover the truth. As a teenager, Sharon Marshall seemed to have the perfect life. She was brilliant, one of the top students in her class. A lieutenant colonel in ROTC. Teachers admired her. Friends loved her. She was kind, intelligent, and full of potential. But what made her stand out the most was her dream. Sharon wanted to work at NASA, and she was on track to get there. In 1986, she graduated from high school in Forest Park, Georgia, with a full-ride scholarship to study aerospace engineering at Georgia Tech. Her future looked unstoppable, but she never went because Sharon was hiding something that would change everything. She was pregnant. During her final months of high school, Sharon carried a secret she never told anyone, not even the baby's father. She gave birth quietly and gave the child up for adoption to a wealthy couple in Texas. No one knew, not her classmates, not her teachers, not even the boy she loved, but the emotional toll was too much. Her plans began to fall apart. At one point, she even tried to run away with her boyfriend, but it failed, and just like that, her dream of becoming an aerospace engineer disappeared. After graduation, Sharon moved to Tampa, Florida, starting over with a man named Franklin Delano Floyd. At first glance, he seemed like someone helping her rebuild her life, but in reality, he was the beginning of something far darker. Even while living with Frank, Sharon tried to move forward. She began seeing someone else, and soon she was pregnant again, just like before. She kept it a secret, but this time she chose differently. In 1988, she gave birth to a baby boy, Michael Gregory Marshall. She decided to keep him, to raise him, to give him the life she never had. But raising a child wasn't easy. Frank rarely worked due to a bad back, and money was always tight, so Sharon did whatever she could to survive. She became an exotic dancer, and while some may judge that choice, her co-workers saw something different. They saw a woman who was kind, gentle, and fiercely devoted to her child. Among those co-workers was an 18-year-old named Cheryl Comesso. The two became close friends, but not everyone got along. Frank and Cheryl constantly clashed. There were even rumors that the two had some kind of brief involvement, but whatever it was, it didn't end well. In 1989, everything changed. Sharon, Frank, and Cheryl went on a boating trip together. What should have been a normal outing turned into a turning point. A fight broke out between Cheryl and Frank, and after that, nothing would ever be the same. Soon after, Cheryl reported Sharon to social services. She accused her of hiding income to receive welfare benefits, and it was true. Sharon had been underreporting her earnings just to survive, but Cheryl's report destroyed that safety. Sharon lost her financial support, and Frank was furious. Not long after, Frank confronted Cheryl outside their workplace. Witnesses say he punched her in the face. It was violent, public, uncontrolled, and then Cheryl disappeared. She left her father's house to visit a friend, but never arrived. Her car was later found abandoned at an airport, and just like that, she was gone. Police began investigating. Frank and Sharon quickly became persons of interest, but there wasn't enough evidence. No body, no proof, no answers, and then they disappeared too. Sharon and Frank packed up and left the area, using fake names as they traveled. Later that same year, they got married. A strange, unsettling decision. Frank claimed it was to give Michael a proper family name, but to outsiders, it didn't feel right. Nothing about their relationship felt normal. They eventually settled in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Sharon continued working as a dancer, making friends easily wherever she went, but Frank remained the same, aggressive, controlling, unlikable. People didn't trust him, and maybe they had good reason not to. One day, after another argument with one of Sharon's co-workers, Frank said something chilling. "If she ever left me, I'd kill her." At the time, it may have sounded like an empty threat, but Sharon took it seriously because behind the scenes, she was planning her escape. She had met someone new, someone she trusted, someone she wanted to build a future with, but she was afraid of what Frank might do to her and to her son. And then, before she could leave, something terrible happened. Sharon was found unconscious on the side of a highway. It looked like a hit and run. Frank claimed he was asleep at the time. She was rushed to the hospital, barely alive. Friends came to visit her. They said she was improving, that she might survive. But then, something changed. Frank suddenly banned everyone from seeing her. No visitors. No explanations, and just 5 days later, Sharon died. Doctors were suspicious. They noticed old bruises on her body, signs of previous abuse, even more disturbing. The injury that killed her didn't clearly match a car accident. Her death was ruled a homicide, but there was no evidence strong enough to charge Frank. Still, everyone suspected him, even Sharon's co-workers. In fact, they were the ones who paid for her headstone. Not Frank, but his actions after her. Death raised even more questions. He quickly tried to claim an $80,000 life insurance policy he had taken out on Sharon just months earlier. But there was a problem. His identity didn't match. He had used too many aliases too. Many fake names, and eventually, he slipped. He gave his real name, Frank Delano Floyd, and that's when everything unraveled. Authorities discovered his past, and it was horrifying. At just 19 years old, Frank had abducted and assaulted a 4-year-old girl. He was sentenced to prison, but he escaped, then robbed a bank, got caught again, released years later, and tried to abduct another woman, arrested again, then vanished for years. He lived under fake identities, and no one knew who he really was until now. Meanwhile, Michael, Sharon's son, was placed into foster care. But something wasn't right. He couldn't speak. He didn't behave like other children. He screamed, moaned, but never used words. It was clear he had been through something deeply traumatic. Frank insisted he was Michael's father, but a DNA test proved otherwise. And just like that, his connection to the child was legally cut, but Frank wasn't done. After his release from prison in 1994, he began stalking Michael, watching him, planning, and then he made his move. He walked into Michael's school, pulled out a gun, and demanded to see him. Under threat, the principal complied. Frank took Michael, kidnapped him in broad daylight, and vanished. A massive search began. Weeks passed, then months, and finally, Frank was caught in Kentucky, but Michael was gone. No trace, no answers, and Frank refused to speak. Then came another shocking discovery. Skeletal remains found in Florida were identified as Cheryl Comesso. She had been brutally murdered, beaten, and shot. Evidence linked Frank directly to her death. He was convicted, sentenced to death, but the darkest twist was still yet to come. In 2014, nearly 30 years later, the truth about Sharon Marshall was finally revealed. Her real name was Suzanne Marie Sivakis. She wasn't who people thought she was. She wasn't just Sharon, she was a victim. Long before anyone knew her, Frank had kidnapped her as a child, his own stepdaughter. He raised her under fake names, abused her, controlled her, and eventually married her. The man she lived with, trusted, depended on, was the one who had stolen her entire life. And then came the final confession. Frank admitted he killed Michael, shot him while on the run. His body was never found. To this day, Frank Floyd has never been convicted of Sharon's murder, but many believe he took her life too. And even now, he refuses to talk about it. This case is more than just a crime story. It's a story of a stolen identity, a stolen childhood, and a stolen future. Sharon Marshall, Suzanne Sivakis, was a victim. Her entire life and her story reminds us that sometimes the truth is far more terrifying than fiction. If this story shocked you, make sure to subscribe for more real crime cases like this, because some stories deserve to be told and some victims should never be forgotten.